But as I began to get these bigger contracts with, let's say, for instance, the U.S. Open, where now I had to fill slots.
Sorry, mic drop. I'm sorry. That is huge. What's your crazy celebrity story?
Oh, man. You got Madonna in the room. You got Alex Rodriguez in the room. You know, Justin Timberlake, Timbaland, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, you name it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Banking on Cultura. I am your host, Victoria Jen Rodriguez, and here we talk about the vibrancy, the complexity of Latino culture, entrepreneurship, and of course, all the bonchinche in between. And you know, we host our podcast here in New York City. That is where our main podcast studio is, in the heart of New York City, in Midtown. So many of our guests are born and bred from New York City. I myself being a native of New York City. So it's always a pleasure to have a guest on the show that is born here, thriving here, killing it here, and is also responsible for much of the energy and the waves that take place here in the city. So without further ado, I'm really excited to welcome none other than Efrain Merced, also known as DJ Mode, to Banking on Cultura.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
I'm really pumped to have you here.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah.
When we were preparing for this conversation, I was like, wow, this guy has really done some pretty amazing things.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we like to start the show with some bonchinche, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of your story. So tell us something that people can't Google about you.
Yeah, let me see. I'm a father, so I have a father.
People can Google that about you. Stop it.
Yeah, can they?
I mean, don't you have I see your son on social media.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sometimes I do.
This is bonchinche hour, okay?
Hour.
We
Something
need
that they
some more
can't Google
tea,
about me. That's a good one. I think that for me, what you couldn't Google about me is the type of family man I am, the type of friend that I am. You know, I think those things are, things that I generally keep private, and to myself. So, I'm definitely one of the loyal people who shows up for my family and friends. I'm the one that everyone calls on when they need some help and stuff like that. So I guess that's something that you couldn't Google about me.
And I could attest to that because you actually came through for us. So DJ Mode was our amazing in-house DJ for the 7th annual Secure the Big Bag and Wellness Summit. And at that moment, I really got to see your character. So what you're saying is true because you were someone that I was like, hey, I need some help. Can you help a girl out? And you came through and saved us in more ways than one.
I was happy to, and it was a phenomenal event, and I was happy to be a part of it. Like opportunities like that where you're delivering so much value to this big group of people. I was just happy to be a part of it, and so in any way that I could help, I can help. And again, when I see those areas in which I can fill, like I'm always happy to jump in and lend a hand because I understand how challenging it is as an entrepreneur to get things started and to have a team and you could plan everything out to the T and still there will still be things that kind of don't go your way or don't go according to plan. So you always got to be rolling with those punches and when I see the need, I do my best to jump in and help.
Yes, you came through and saved the day. DJ Mode, also known as Superman. That's how we're going to do that. So you were born and raised in the Bronx.
Yes.
In the projects.
Yes.
And you have managed to create this beautiful, lucrative career with one of your loves, right? Music.
Yep.
So I want to talk about the how, right?
Okay.
Here on Banking on Cultura, we like to give kind of like the insider scoop, the stuff that you can't Google about someone's journey and learnings and really strategy. So I really want to drop some bombs on y'all today. So make sure you get your notepad and your pen because we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how you've been able to literally start from nothing and create this beautiful brand and also do what you love and also secure these corporate contracts doing what you love. Sure. So you actually never had an official job before, right?
No, I mean not if you don't count the YMCA as a teenager or Blockbuster right after that. But at 17 years old, I was interning at the Scratch DJ Academy, which is here in the city, a school started by Jam Master Jay of Run DMC, and I was an intern for that, and I ended up from an intern, there was an instructor who called out sick, wasn't able to make it. I was able to fill that slot. they were like, oh, this person, he knows the curriculum. He's able to jump in. He can speak well. He can put a sentence together. You're going to have to jump in. And I was just right place, right time for myself to take advantage of that opportunity. And so from there on in, that's all I've ever done is be DJ. It evolved into being a music director, an entrepreneur, an investor, things like that. But at the core of it was, like you said, my love for music, my passion and my desire to be a part of this industry. I never looked back after that. So
where does this love for music come from?
I had two uncles who were DJs as well, who shared a lot of music with us. I think both my parents, the typical, Latino story where you're hearing the blaring salsa on Saturday morning, it's time to clean up. And
you're Boricua, right?
I am. I'm full Puerto Rican. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think my father also had a really eclectic taste. He was very into rock and 80s kind of like synth new wave type of vibes. And so from that, it kind of informed like really my style of music at that time, or, my fandom. And then, of course, being born and raised in the Bronx, birthplace of hip hop, you're exposed to the music is everywhere, right? And the sounds are everywhere. So I think that's where the beginning of it, that kind of ignited the love for the music.
And DJ Mode, where does that come from?
So yeah, a lot of people ask me that question. It's a funny one. I cycled through zillions of names, when I was coming up with what I would be called and what my moniker would be.
What were some of your names?
They're terrible. I don't want ever one of those things to go out to public, but one of them was DJ Chase at one point.
Okay,
and, that's the only one that could have worked. It would have been all right. But on the radios, on the stereos, they have function, and then it said mode. Where you're just switching from tape deck to radio to whatever. Okay. So I looked that up and it said the definition was the way that it's done. And I was like, how much cooler can you get than that? The way that it's done, it stands for fashion, moda, so all those different ways and modus operandi. So if you get, deeper in the weeds with it, but mode kind of fit my personality and kind of was like an all-encompassing name that I thought would work long-term, where I wouldn't be like embarrassed to call myself DJ Mode, much years later,
Yeah.
That was the idea.
So cool. So you've had the pleasure of working alongside like some of our favorite celebs and very well-known legends. Tell us the story about how you got connected to Britney Spears.
Sure. So I started while I was at the Scratch Academy. They sent me over to her camp. She had a camp in Cape Cod where they would teach underprivileged children, arts and dance and things like that. So I came about and I was sent there for a week to go teach them how to DJ. At the end of it, I was supposed to DJ a party for them, like after end of camp party, so to speak.
How old were you at that time?
I was 19 years old.
Okay. So 19 years old, you're at Britney Spears camp.
Yeah,
okay.
she's the biggest artist in the world.
Right, at that time. At this time,
biggest.
Before, when she had hair.
right. This is pre that, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I was very fortunate to get that opportunity. And while she was there, she was in the crowd. And I kind of saw an opportunity to do a blend. I took a Fabulous record with one of her songs, put that together. It immediately stopped her in her tracks. She sent over a manager. I was able to chat with him and form a relationship with them. And then I started DJing her, whether it was birthday parties or album release parties and things like that. So got connected with that team and they started booking me for tours. And, after that, it was like I was gone for about the next 4 years. That's when I decided to drop out of school and pursue this full time.
So you dropped out of college?
I did, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, There's so much to the story. It's like, I want to see how much time you got. Because there's a lot of details within this whole thing, but yeah.
What's your crazy celebrity story?
Oh, man. Let me see. Again, I think during that era of time, I was just a 19-year-old kid in the room with anyone and everyone that you could think of that was hot at the time, right? So I'm DJing and kind of like holding court and setting the tone for then the vibe for that particular group of people that's people that I've only watched on television. So I think that shock of it for me was like
who?
Huge. Like you got Madonna in the room, you got Alex Rodriguez in the room, you got any athletes or any musicians at the time that were like as big as it could get. You know what I mean? And so, Justin Timberlake, Timbaland, Leonardo DiCaprio, you name it in that scene in New York, they would all come out for these bigger events. So anything that I did involving them. And then after that, I started doing more nightclubs. And then that was very similar vibes, right? Like I was doing Bungalow 8, you know, I had a residency there, which was, you know, didn't get popping until 1 o'clock at night, you know, at 1 o'clock in the morning rather. And you name it, everyone in fashion and in any socialites, anybody that would have came through, I was kind of privileged enough to be around them and work with them.
Wow. All of this, like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
That
I wasn't
crazy.
even old enough to get in the clubs, actually.
Right,
like
and you're
technically,
over here,
and I was
DJing the clubs.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, I attribute that to, you know, a guy by the name of Todd Malice, who was, you know, he doesn't DJ anymore, but he was a really big DJ back in the day in New York City, and he was, you know, saw something in me, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you come in and get here at this time?" And I kind of like started really understanding how things went from that vantage point as a young kid. So once it was my turn to actually be in the club spinning and holding court myself, I was able to like kind of take it. It was an easy transition for me.
And did they try to get you to work for free?
No. Well, I think the Britney thing, like the teaching the kids at the camp, and you know, they kind of like, they sell you on the idea of a future opportunity, right? And for me, I think as soon as I made the connection with Britney's manager, I was able to turn that into an opportunity for myself, right? And so from that, I think it rubbed them the wrong way, the people who originally booked me for the opportunity, because they kind of didn't expect that. They didn't expect that I'd have that hustle and that drive to make something out of nothing. Something that was just supposed to be a story that I told. Yo, you should just be excited to be around Britney. That's pretty cool. You're going to get to tell your friends. That's exciting, right? I'm a younger person. They didn't realize that I had the desire and the, you know, kind of my goals were greater and loftier. And so I took that upon myself to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make these connections. I'm going to stay in touch with these people. And out of that, I was able to, again, get these further opportunities.
So did you think about mixing the Fab and Britney song there on the spot, or did you think about that before?
I've been doing that mix. I just was like, I'm going to get to do it for her in person. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, but this is a great takeaway, because many entrepreneurs feel like they can't do anything for free. And they're very like gung-ho about it. And it's interesting because, you know, here on Banging on Cultura, we talk about securing the big bag. Like, we want to get you paid, but there are those significant opportunities where sometimes you are doing it for free. And it's a matter of what you do, right? What you do when you're in the room that can determine whether or not you're able to monetize going forward. So what would be your thoughts for somebody who is thinking about, you know, they want to do something, but let's say there's not a budget for them? What would be your advice?
Sure. I mean, it all depends what kind of space you're in, right? Because I think it's not like, it all depends on the situation. I think it's circumstantial, right? And most times people will try to get something for nothing, and they'll try to use you, you know, and use what you have, which you have to realize if they're coming to you for that, you have some value, right? And so let it be a value exchange. Let there be a complete understanding. I think oftentimes, you know, especially creatives and people who are just trying to make their passion into a career, they don't really understand how they should be communicating. This is my value. Here's what I'm bringing to you. Here's what I'd like in exchange. If for some reason there is no budget for that, right? Like I'd ask the questions of like, where this room isn't free, you know, the food isn't free, where, in which, and why in this segment do you not value this enough to pay for it, right? And how important is it that this job gets done well? So that would be my first approach. I mean, obviously now knowing so much more, but back then the value was, okay, you're gonna have access to a person that you've never had access to. At this stage in the game, that early, 19 years old, yeah, perhaps you might want to take, you have the ability to take a few more risks, right, in that department and say, oh, I'll see how this pans out, right? And God willing, that client or that person that puts you in that position isn't just fully taking advantage. I think you're going to be able to identify that very, very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's something to the value exchange and being clear about what do you want out of the engagement, right? If there's not a budget or if money's not on the table, how else can you creatively create opportunity for yourself if you are choosing to do something for free? I always advise my clients and the students inside the Dare to Leap Academy, like, hey.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome, okay? Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Click on the link above or below this video to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go. If you're doing anything for free, there needs to be a strategy attached to it. There needs to be a strategy attached to it. Are you getting an email list? Are you getting introductions? Are you getting invited to another event? Like what is the strategy with you choosing to do something for free?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because if there's a strategy attached to it, then there's value.
Absolutely. Then it makes sense, right? In that instance, you're like, okay, there's a value exchange here. Here's where this person could help me. Again, maybe listen, they themselves are doing, you could do something personal for somebody. And now they're in your sales funnel.
Right.
So this is a good thing. This is not, you don't shy away from those opportunities, but you have to manage them very well and you pick and choose what those are.
Right.
Like I know people that'll get started and let's say they're a photographer, they're a makeup artist, they're whatever, and they'll like a whole year they're doing free clients just to like get their reps in type, so to speak. Practice at your house. Like don't practice on the job. Like go knock that out. Like your close friends and family, that's fine. But once you get out there, you know, you have to kind of like set yourself up like a business. You have to treat this just like you would any other business. Just because it's a skill set or an art form doesn't really change that at all. You're still a vendor. You're still someone who's providing a service and you deserve to get paid for that.
This is actually really good because new entrepreneurs tend to think that they need to put in their reps or need to build their portfolio. And so they do things for free. Again, it has to make sense. Yeah. Like it could make sense. Maybe you do need to have those in-person shots where you're able to create a portfolio that you present to a client that is going to pay you, right? Then there's strategy there. Okay, I need this content. I need this access. I need this picture with XYZ person, right? Then it makes sense. But if you're just doing it for practice, think about, again, what else can you get out of that exchange if you are doing it for free? Because I think also something strategic to doing things for free is relationship building. Like it is a way to kind of show what you can do. Like I know with some of my corporate clients, I rarely do anything for free. But sometimes I do come in at a lower point because I know like, okay, if I do this for you here, then you have to do this for me in the future. But even with that, there's no guarantee. Like there's no guarantee they're going to follow through on their promise. There's no guarantee that, you know, there is going to be a budget for you next year. So everything is a risk. So you do have to do the risk assessment and see what makes sense. But yeah.
I mean, it's really just like you would do any other business, thing, which is, the cost benefit analysis. And you look at that and you say, hey, you know what? How does this benefit me? Even if it doesn't on the financial front. And again, your goal should be to make money and earn money in this, if you're just trying to replace an income, if this is a side hustle that you hope to turn into a career somehow, whatever those things are, it's very, very vital for you to take your time with those things, because also what you don't want to do is sell yourself short. If you've gotten the practice, if you know better now, you got your skill set up, does it benefit you to then share with them that, hey, I don't value this at anything. Like this thing that I'm going to bring to the table, I'm going to go and let's say DJ your party for 4 hours, whatever it might be, that, you know what, guess what? I could be persuaded and kind of lose your bargaining there. You kind of lose that power there. It's because you should at least charge something. Like something. Even if you're just getting started, I would recommend doing that.
Yeah, even if it's covering your travel.
Something,
as an
right?
example,
Like if it could at least be that, then it might be worth the opportunity cost to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get some stuff under my portfolio. I'm going to DJ live for people, whatever that might be early on in your career. I'm totally comfortable with that. But you have to, like you said, set a strategy. There has to be an end time for this. This has to be otherwise you're going to end up giving this away for free and you're going to get better and better at it. And why would I pay for something that I could get for free, right? Like the client is going to look at this and just say, hey, in this segment of things that I have to budget out for, that I don't have to budget out for because I got somebody great who's going to do it for free.
Yeah,
you know? And so like you lose your incomplete value in that space. So it's better. It's honestly what you say no to. Hold off a year. And I've had clients come back to me who've been like, oh, we don't have a budget. All of a sudden they get the cheaper guy, and then they come back a year later or they come back and I'm fortunate enough to be able to weed those people out and to wait on those clients to come back. And it's always, it's always very professional and you kind of send them off with that. But the people will understand that this is a business and you're running a business as well. And, and you get what you paid for.
Right. And you teach people to treat you how you want to be treated.
That's exactly
right?
that.
If you're a premium asset, you have to show up in that way.
Completely.
Right?
Yeah. And again, and oftentimes, again, I don't know if it's just our culture or if it's just the creatives, they're so uncomfortable with speaking about money. They're so uncomfortable with the economic part of it. They're like, I love the art form of it, but the business side of it, it's very challenging for me. And for those people, I would just tell them like to get the help where you are not good at it, right? Like just seek those areas in which these are not your strong points. Find some help, partner up with someone, get a manager, get someone else to speak for you if this is something that but the same way that you practice your sets, same way you practice makeup, your photography, whatever it might be, make sure that you're practicing how to speak to clients, how to follow up with them, how your communication looks via email, everything. All that stuff is going to make a huge difference to whether or not you are going to get to continuously be booked and have this be a career. Otherwise, it's going to be a flash in the pan. You're not going to be able to weather the tough times. And then you'll ultimately eventually quit.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
And I think maybe another way to reposition it for creatives is like talking about money and negotiating is an art form. Like,
I agree.
It really is an art form. Like, it needs practice. It needs nourishment. It needs TLC. It needs consistency. Like, it really is an art to be able to negotiate on your behalf, to sell yourself, to talk about things that make you uncomfortable, but not letting them see you sweat. Like, it truly is an art form.
Absolutely.
So maybe if we position it that way, creatives would feel
then
less
they might
like
be more,
icky about it.
exactly.
Because it is art. It is.
Yeah, it is.
When you see someone in action, like I've gone to events and I've seen people on stage, like just so seamlessly and so fluid, like literally just drawing a whole crowd and just freaking kill it. And I'm just like, wow, this is like art. Like, it really is incredible
I completely
to see.
agree.
So,
but I mean, think about anything else you've seen. You've gone to concerts before, you've gone to shows.
right.
It's all in the preparation, right? These people prepared, they practice this, that they're like rehearsing this to no end. They know it like the back of their hand. And the same way that you would know your sets as a DJ, let's say for instance, like the music, that part comes easy. This is the part you're gonna have to work on. This is the muscle that you have to strengthen
Right.
for you this to really be a viable business. Otherwise, it is a hobby. Otherwise, it doesn't bring you, again, the brand partnerships, the kind of desire for the big bag. Like that's not gonna happen because you haven't figured out this part. Like this is it.
And I think a lot of creators get
taken.
taken advantage of because it's so well known in the industry, across so many industries, that creatives are not comfortable. And so their manager will take a bigger fee, or there'll be money left on the table because they know like you don't really care about the money, like you care about the art. And like they'll take advantage of that. Like sharks will take advantage of that. And you can't get mad at it. Like you can't.
No.
So it's almost like in your best interest as a creative to take ownership of your career in that way and manage your money. I think I had heard like DJ Khaled said like he doesn't even have like a money manager. Like he watches every single wire that comes in and everything that goes out. Like he does it himself because A, he don't trust nobody, but B, is because he wants to have complete ownership over his shit.
Absolutely.
And I think creatives need to like really tap into that source, because you are doing yourself a disadvantage if you're allowing your insecurity for you to like delegate this out. Like you have to be on top of your shit. And the money side and the business side is just as important as the art. Exactly. And the creative side.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, like I see it all the time. It's unfortunate how little they value that music segment, that art segment, that the artistry of it all, the photographer, all these things that make really what we do
the vibe,
move,
totally.
Right? Like it's literally like you're, you know, the person who is the MC for the evening. Any of these like outside vendors that, let's say, brands are hiring for their activations, from that perspective, they're completely aware that they value the experience, that as a musician, you get filled by this experience, by the interaction with your crowd, you know, all of that. You live for that performance. Like that part of it is what you dreamt about as a child. The business side, they know that you don't take it as seriously. They know that like that's like your left brain and that ain't really the strongest part. So you know what, let's save where we can, right? And so you have to bring yourself, like you said, a premium act, a premium brand. You're someone that doesn't show up and this service cost, if it's valuable, this is very important to this evening. And that's the question you got to ask your clients. Like you got to say, how important is this if this goes wrong? If this job is not done well, how do you feel about that? Is that very important to you? No, it's really important to us. If there's no music, all of a sudden his laptop cuts out, all of a sudden his equipment is crappy, like all these things happen. Now what? How valuable is it to you to have, okay, well then here's you're managing their risk so much greater. You're like, this is something that you hand this to DJ mode, it's hands off. Like you don't got to worry about this. This part is good.
Yeah, totally. That's also, I think, a great strategy also when you're negotiating is literally asking the potential client like, hey, is this a priority for you? Right? If so, rate it 1 to 5. How much of this is a priority? And ask those questions before money even comes up because you're setting them up. Like you're literally setting them up for the sale because they're literally saying how much they value it and how much it's a priority and it's so significant and it's so important, right? And then you're like, oh, great. So it's $10,000.
Exactly, right? There you go. That's it. That's exactly it. I mean, for me, it more comes into play with My Music Experience, which is my company that I started. Because as a DJ, you get asked questions about, you know, private events and Sweet 16s and weddings and things like that, which I don't generally do, but I handle a lot of the calls. I have myself and my team, but I take a lot of those kind of intake calls initially because I need to gauge whether or not this is a good client for us, whether or not this is the right client for us. Because again, oftentimes in a wedding, the cost is astronomical, right? For a couple to get married. The wedding, the flowers, the dress, the shoes, the whatever, you name it, right? So then they want to skimp on the DJ. They want to go like as low as possible. And I'm like, let's be real. No one is going to remember what your dress looked like. No one's going to remember what your shoes look like. They're going to only remember that they had an amazing time. And the right DJ is going to make sure that happens. And this is how I would sell that particular client on that because it's like, yeah, you got to understand what's more valuable to you. Like in theory, the flowers are going to look beautiful and cool. They're going to die and that's it. The memory of this is going to last your guest for a long time. So, you know, you have to be able to weed out the clients that go, you know, it ain't that important to me. Is it? No, then, you know, I'm not going to be the right guy for you. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work. Yeah.
Totally. And you've actually built a business model where you have DJs that work on your team. So now it's not just you. Like it's not just you going to every gig. You have a team of DJs that you actually send out, which is a real great takeaway for folks around like scalability. Like I know solopreneurs are kind of glorified. I consider myself a solopreneur even though I have a very small team. But if you think about like scaling and actually making some more money, you have to figure out like how to duplicate yourself. So at what point in your career did you be like, okay, it's time for me to like get some other DJs and grow this a little differently?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I had always kind of kept a small roster of guys around me that I trusted, that in the event that I double booked, you know, that went to them, right? But as I began to get these bigger contracts with, let's say, for instance, the US Open, where now I had to fill slots.
Sorry, mic drop. I'm sorry. That is huge. Okay, we need to make sure we take a moment. No, has there ever been a Latino like in-house DJ doing the US Open?
No, there hasn't been.
Wow.
No. I'm definitely the first for sure. Whether or not that it's known, or again, that might be something you can't Google because
I don't think
anyone's ever asked that question.
I think we need a press release for that one. Just saying, you should approach the US Open and be like, hey, you want to celebrate diversity?
Yeah, listen, Hispanic Heritage Month. Like I need to look.
Let's put the press release out there.
For
yes.
Sure. Nah, I would love that. But for me, it was like when I was given these opportunities of working in these big venues, all I could think about was I wish I had someone like me to kind of reach a hand back and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to provide your first opportunity in this space, whether it's sports, entertainment, whatever it might be. Literally, like, let me try and cut down your time, you know, by the knowledge that I have, right? And the relationships that I've built up and the equity in that. And then again, also for scalability, yes, it does make sense to you build a business where we could be in several places at once and, you know, collecting obviously income from that. You know, that's valuable for sure.
Yeah.
But I think what I based it all on was that idea of saying, hey, you know what, these are some incredible venues. Let me not keep them to myself, right? These are incredible opportunities. Let me see how I can, instead of like killing myself and doing all of them, let me not be greedy. Let me see if I got some guys who are very super talented that they may not have the ability to kind of like, not necessarily negotiate. What I mean is like, they don't have those connections. They don't have those relationships. It would take them a long time to develop those relationships. Let me cut that down in half and introduce you to these guys and into this, you know, new arena.
Yeah. And not only that, you're providing opportunity and kind of leaning back, but you're also eating off of not having to be in the room.
That's everything right there.
Right.
Listen, let's not forget about it. Let's not go over that lightly. That is a blessing.
You ain't even in the room.
That is a blessing.
Like,
I check my phone. I'm like, they're like, oh, it's over. Okay, cool. And I go back to sleep.
Exactly. And then you got that in the account. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely.
Okay, so hold on. So let's circle back. So US Open, you've also done like NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yep.
You've also been like Madison Square Garden kind of vibes. And what are some other corporate things you have going on?
So as of recently, I got back to working with Cadillac, right?
Oh,
and
cool.
so
I saw your Instagrams. I saw you pulling up in the caddy.
Yeah,
How does that work?
Yeah.
So a brand is like, hey, we want to work with you. Here's a car.
It's sort of. It's kind of like that. Yeah, in a way, right? So with Cadillac, I had formed a relationship back in 2019 where they hired me to produce the music for a commercial. So I basically project managed the whole audio side of the whole thing. I made the music, I produced the song, and it was supposed to be for a small film festival. They were producing it. It came out so great that it ended up becoming a national spot, which was pretty incredible and exciting.
So do you collect royalties on that?
And that one I sold outright. So yeah, I did sell it outright. There was a reason for that. I don't know. I think it was the right thing to do.
Okay.
I think it was like it was the right move for me. I don't think moving forward I wouldn't do it again. But this one was it worked out as like a better payout rather than the length of time it was going to run for. We factored in a bunch of things.
Okay.
Consulted with, again, the strong parts, right? I have a lawyer. I have an entertainment lawyer who I go to with these opportunities, and they're kind of advising me, and so we went with that.
Love that. Okay. So you did the national commercial, and then they're like, hey, we have this other campaign coming out.
Yeah. So then they started building back up. So when they saw my involvement with the US Open, they were like, hey, we're doing some really cool things with influencers and things like that. And if you check my social media, I don't have huge numbers. However, the relationships and the people that I do know in that segment of people, they are pretty they are influential. You know, they are more, you know, they have the numbers to back up all the things, right? And the metrics rather. But they saw the value in having someone like me who's in the rooms that I'm in, having the conversations that I'm having. And that's what was incredible about that brand, is that they're able to see past what everyone else is doing, which is kind of lazy marketing, which is like, let's just get the person that got 10,000 followers going to communicate that same message versus, hey, there's a story here and we want to get back to working with Mode, who worked with us in the very beginning. I mean, with this particular agency who put us with Cadillac and all that stuff. So I think for that is why that opportunity, you know, became, you know, it came to be rather.
So do you get to keep the car? Or?
I have it for a little while. Yeah, I get to. They give me it's a loaner. It has to go back at some point, but I'm enjoying it for the meantime. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah.
Is it like the newest version?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And they gave me a choice of the cars that I could choose
really?
And everything like that. They delivered it to the house in a truck.
What are
it was
like
a cool experience.
So what's the responsibility? Like, do they have a cap on how many miles you can have on the car or anything like that? It's
my car to do with it. I mean, obviously I have to shoot some content around it, right? Okay. So those were the deliverables, which was like, we had I want to say it was about 4 deliverables that I have to give to them over time, right? So I had one where I was DJing to I was on my way to DJ the NBA holiday party. And then also I did a launch for them. So they have like the Vistic, which is their new vehicle. It's an electric, like luxury high-end vehicle. So I DJ'd the kickoff for that.
Dope.
And so, things like that. And then it was like synergistic and the timing of it and everything like that. So God willing, we'll build up for next year's US Open and keep your eyes tuned, peeled. But I'm psyched about next year. I'm psyched about next year.
Okay, so can we have a range of like what something like that goes for? Like if someone's negotiating with a brand right now,
sure.
Like what does that look like?
Well, again, you're going to have to be able to prove your value with that. So everything that comes along with that. So if we're talking about just providing a service, that service is based on, your time, you know what I mean? And the cost of goods, right? So for an artist, there is no, it's your intellectual property, it's your ideas, it's that creative time. So literally I build out a line item, line by line, let's say for instance, for a commercial, right? If that's a commercial, and how I would budget that out is each individual line item. So I'm going to need an engineer, I'm going to need musicians, I'm going to need a vocal artist, I'm going to need this and this and that. And then I kind of present that to them and we go back and forth and we negotiate based on that, right? For the brand deals, that becomes the events that I'm doing for them and in conjunction with what I need to provide for them, like the deliverables and sort of like the content, for them. In addition to the length of time that I have the car, right? So all that became more, okay, let's say there's not as much budget on the front end of it, but I can keep the car longer. There's some value in that, right? For me to be able to have that vehicle with me. And then per events, they paid my rate. So that made me happy and I was good with that. And then again, the plans, like you said, the strategy that we have for next year and everything surrounding US Open, the ideas that we're going to have doing, what budget that will carry, that's already written. That's actually written down. So those are the things of why, okay, maybe I'll take a little less on this because that I know, because you guys value that more, that's going to carry a big higher thing. It's going to be a lot more work as well. And that's the thing. I think we need to, instead of thinking about how much we can charge, it's like, how much value can I provide for you? Like you hire me to do one thing, but I can do these several other things that are going to benefit you as well. You're not just paying for this. You know what I mean? So if I kind of like inflate my price to match the value versus the time, because it's for a 2-hour event, I can't charge time, right? It would never make sense, right? And so I think when we look at those things, say, hey, what's the value add here that I'm bringing to the table for this short period of time, or the duration of whatever your contract might be.
I think this is a good takeaway for folks because we need to think of ourselves as I'm just gonna make up this term, like multiplier assets. And what that means is, or maybe asset multiplier. We'll have to play around with what it is. But what that means is if a brand or a corporate is coming to you asking for one thing, you are more than just that one thing. So thinking about, okay, well, what else can I bring to this table so that they can see kind of all of the value that I bring to the table, things that they haven't even thought about, right? But I'm going to plant the seed and get even a bigger budget.
Absolutely.
Because you're introducing something they didn't even think of.
That's exactly how I approach things. That's how you put it into better words than I could, but it's exactly that, right? It's the preparation prior to these conversations that you're going to have, that you're going to write down really what you bring to the table, right? What is my resume? They're going to see a one-sheeter. They may know what they see on social media. They might be that, right? You have to kind of remind them, hey, here's where the value is. You're not only just hiring the guy that does the music at Madison Square Garden. I've also done Carnegie Hall. I've also done plays. I've also done this. I produce. I make music. I have these relationships that I've had for 10 to 15 years that I've cultivated this Rolodex and these group of people that, you have access to because of my relationships with them. And so therein lies, and again, saying that without any arrogance or anything like that, but just saying it in terms of here's what I bring to the table. This is why this makes sense. This is why the number is the number, because you cannot compare a kid who just started, right, versus what the length, the amount of experience that I have, right, and so that's how I approach those conversations. And I think for young people just starting out, or just anyone wherever you are in the stage of your life, it's building up that kind of reputation that you can say, hey, this is what I've done. The proof is there. I don't need to do it for free because those people paid me for it, right? If you're not the one that's going to pay me for it, that's totally fine. You can never negotiate up from zero. I feel like that's going to be a really tough one for you to do. You know what I mean? Like, how do you get yourself from zero to even $1,000? You know what I mean? For a person to go ahead and try to charge that. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good homework assignment for everybody. So do like an asset checklist, like literally write down everything that you have done, all your value, your wins, your accomplishments, the relationships that you have, and use that to kind of build out your package when you're about to talk to a brand and literally bring like your full self and be like, you know, you should be thinking about these relationships long-term anyway, right? It shouldn't be like a one and done, because if they got a budget for one thing, they got a budget for many things.
Absolutely.
So you want to be a part of all of it, you know?
I mean, and here's what I want to speak to as well is like the two things. There was the fact that I've had a lot of these clients that I've worked with, like for instance, US Open is since 2014. New York City FC, which is the Yankee the MLS club that plays out of Yankee Stadium. Them I've been with since 2015. Prior to that, the NBA, I've been working with them since 2008. These are long-term relationships that I've been able to benefit from. Other friends, you know, have been able to benefit from. Other DJs, other, you know, guys that work for me have been able to benefit from them. That's because I played the long game. I made authentic relationships, and I loved at your conference seeing that you built out that networking time for everybody, for your guests to kind of like meet. Excuse me. Unfortunately, people see that and they look at it as like, let this be the transactional. How can I hit this person up today and get something from them today? And like, it might not be that. It might be you planting a little seed. Right. It might be you sending them a note. It might be sending them a gift basket. It might be there's so many things that I've done in the beginning of these relationships to solidify them, to make them a bit more authentic, to connect with them on a deeper level. Don't call them when you need something. Call them just to say hi, to ask about their family. Send them a note, send them an email. Christmas time comes around. They're getting flooded by those messages. Send something that sounds a little bit more different. Like, you know what I mean? Don't just happy holidays these people.
Or
to
send
death,
it earlier.
Right?
I usually send out mine. I try to do like top of November.
There you go.
Like right after Halloween.
Like
boom, you're going to be the first greetings from me.
That's your competitive advantage, right? Like it's being staying top of mind with them. They can go with anybody, right? Those big brands, they have the budget to get anybody that they want.
Right.
How is it that you're going to, you know, carve yourself a little niche to be able to say, oh, this person's memorable. I love working with this person. I enjoy the whole process with this person. Again, it's a hands-off situation. This gives me less stress. I'm on the end. Put yourself in the shoes of the purchaser, right? Like put yourself in the shoes of the client. Always think about that. It's like, how can you make their lives that much easier through this process? That when they're worrying and they're sitting there, I'll be at events and they're waiting on people and the catering's late and this, and don't be that person. Like you have to be punctual. You have to be on time. Don't give them anything to worry about. And God willing, you'll develop that reputation where it's like, this is a no-brainer, then I'm going to go with this person for that opportunity.
So let's get into the Talk That Talk segment, where we address something taboo in the cultura. So what is something you want to address in the culture?
Okay. I would say, again, I think that stigma of discussing money, right? Speaking to clients, discussing money, undervaluing themselves, DJs and musicians undervaluing themselves, kind of creating a lot of noise in the space that really talented people that are business-minded are having a tough time to cut through. Why
do you think that is? Like, why do you think Latinos have this difficult time talking about money?
I think, you know what it is? I think that we've been conditioned to think that money's the root of all evil, right? So I think for me, I could speak to myself, parents would always speak like that. And it would always be like, almost like, make yourself small. Like, don't rock the boat. Don't do anything. Like, you should just be happy to be there. Like, this is cool that you're even just doing this. Like, Adam, I would hear this all the time where it was like, oh my God, you're at Madison Square Garden. Like, people, they work their whole lives to just get that opportunity, but you're going to go and ask for a raise? You're going to go in there and tell them that you want more money? And well, that's crazy. And it was like this thing of like, the people that I saw in those spaces that were doing my job, that were maybe one step above me, their kids are in private school. They have 2 houses. They have a vacation home. Clearly, they didn't fear speaking about money, right? Finances were not an issue for them. They were not uncomfortable to ask for a raise and to get what they felt that they deserved, right? So for me, ultimately, I think it's like one of those things where we have to kill that stigma of being like, we don't deserve that. like we just deserve to just be in the room versus being the people that really run the room. Right.
Yeah.
And I think we have the abilities in so many ways, the skill sets in so many ways to be able to be those executives in charge, be those decision makers in charge, be at the top of that kind of segment. Right. And then get paid appropriately, you know, like accordingly rather.
Yeah. And I think right now, and I drop these stats often, but yo, Latinos have 3.4 trillion buying power. Like that's freaking huge. Huge. We're the youngest generation in this country. And what? The youngins, they drive culture. They drive everything. Like they're the ones who's making the purchases.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
We also, Latinos are purchasing the most online. We consume the most content.
Yeah.
Like literally, we have the power to like make waves out here.
No question.
And having that data at your disposal should make you walk into rooms more confidently, like, you know, and have more orgullo, like, yo, you are that one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have the power, like, start demanding more, like, you deserve more. You've earned it. Like our ancestors have earned it for us. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how can we do this? Like how? So I'm dropping data, but what else?
Right.
Like how can we get people comfortable talking about money?
So I think, again, opportunities like this for people to listen to these conversations, I think we ourselves amongst our own small circles, right? Like we always think about this huge impact that we can have. I'm like, I talk to my team about this. I talk to every DJ that I work with about this. Like these are conversations that's the first thing. I give lessons. I do things like that. Anyone that I work with, I'm always preaching to them like what you're exactly saying, right? And I do my best to hire always Black and brown people and give them opportunities that I know that they wouldn't normally get to have, you know, let's say, for instance, going to the US Open and playing the US Open, you know, but everybody, I mean, every demographic I try to always think about and be mindful of, right? When I'm hiring and bringing people onto these opportunities. But for me, I just always think about it in terms of the fact that, like you said, you're trying to speak to this customer segment, right? And if you're speaking to this customer segment, who better that knows their voice than, you know, a New York native who's also Boricua? Like, this is how I got the NYCFC job. And once I had that conversation, once it was known that they were like, this is exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for an authentic voice, someone who knows this group of people, this demographic, and you have the data. Okay, so now you have the data to support it. You know how valuable this is to speak to them the right way, to make sure that we hit the right points, to make sure that they feel seen, feel understood, feel like they heard their music, feel like they're represented in this space so that they could continue to come back and support, right? You guys want their support, right? From brand's perspective, they want the support in the form of dollars and form of, you know, kind of like that exchange, right? So for me, I think that starting off with your family and friends is going to be the best way, and then grow that out. You know, as your network grows, make sure that these conversations are always being had. And again, you being at the forefront of this, like running it up and bringing up the conversation is going to start the dialogue that's going to, like, light bulbs are going to go off, God willing, in people's heads. They're going to be like, no, what I'm bringing to the table is way more valuable than I've given it credit to, than I've given thought about. You're not just, you know, a musician. You're not just a makeup artist. You're not just this or that. You are someone who deserves to be in these spaces because you put in the work. And anyone else with that level of experience would get, you know, triple what you would get off the top without having to negotiate for it. They would just offer it to you. Yep. There's a lot of people in positions of power that just get offered these things off the top. They don't have to negotiate anything. It's nepotism. It's this, it's that, whatever those things are, right? Like, and that's it. And I have friends who have qualifications and experience that would, you know, that laps these people, and they're sitting there having 3-4 rounds of conversations with these people to try and get what this person got with no effort, right? And so oftentimes we got to make that extra effort, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes you may not be able to talk to your family and friends because they just don't get it. Maybe they have, you know, a scarcity mindset, crab in a barrel. Sometimes it's your environment. Maybe you're a visionary and you're thinking bigger. And I think at that point, you got to get in communities where they are willing to talk to you about money, where it's kind of like supernatural, super normal. Even if you don't speak at the beginning, but just witnessing people talking about money so fluidly. Like, I remember when I first learned about like consulting and going after corporate contracts, I was at this conference in Napa, California, and I'm sitting with this Latino consultant, and he's telling me how he just locked in a 6-figure contract for like 3 months of work, and speaking so nonchalantly, like it was no big deal. And I'm thinking in my head, like, wow, like I make 6 figures in a year. This dude is making 6 figures in 3 months. Like, this is crazy. But because I had the exposure and access now I know, oh, that's possible. Like, oh, that's no big deal to talk about something like that. Like,
there you go.
It's pro quo, right?
Right.
But you never really are able to get comfortable with something like that unless you insert yourself in those type of environments to expose you to those type of conversations.
No question. And as you mentioned, like my upbringing I didn't have any examples of anyone that would ever be financially savvy or have this information that I needed. And through those relationships that I gained from working at the Scratch DJ Academy, that DJ, like I mentioned, Todd Malice, I'm hearing him, he's answering an email on the phone about Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And he's like, yeah, Mo, they're offering me $3,000 to go DJ for 2 hours, which my head exploded. I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's white t-shirt, like, you know, he's so casual about it. He's just everything about it was very casual. And I was like, I'll be spinning, like trying to have this conversation or like, you know what I mean, at the time, right? And so it was great to see those examples of people that, again, had no type of fear over these conversations.
Right.
And that kind of like, again, you couldn't really, it's very difficult to see yourself in it. Right? Until you actually are going through the process and all that. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to make those mistakes. You want to fail as quickly as possible and as early as possible, right? To cut down your time, but absolutely learning from those mistakes and where you left money on the table the prior time. Again, seeking that community, seeking some sort of mentorship where that person, you can check in with them and say, hey, I've got this opportunity. Can I run it by you? Now I have those people that are doing, you know, numbers. Like they're way more successful than I am at the moment. And those are the people that I take advice from. Those are the people that, like, when you see the value in, I see the value in having those group of people around me that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. This, you guys got it. Like, I'm learning. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you guys speak. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to go out and practice it. And then when I have, you know, some more information, now I can contribute. Now I can help the next guy. You know what I mean? And I think that's what it all comes down to.
I love that. So DJ Mode, tell the people where they can find you, how they can stay connected to you, all the things.
Of course. No, the best way to get in touch with me is probably Instagram is probably the best way. Follow me at DJ Mode NYC. And yeah, from there you can message me any questions you might have. There's going to be some more rebranding with, you know, the site and everything like that coming in 2025. So, but for now, that's probably the easiest and best way to get in touch with me.
I love it. Well, thank you and shout out to all of you for joining us. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Don't forget to leave us your reviews. Make sure to subscribe, all the things, so that we can make sure we are constantly providing content that you guys care about and that you find value in. And again, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you in the next episode, y'all. Bye. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you're gonna love the next one. So make sure to click right here and tap into the next episode.